How are you?
Good morning.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Are you reflective people by nature?
I was going to try to do like a thing with where me and Mike do the exact same movements each time. Lucille Ball.
No, yeah, I'd almost say like I'm anti-reflective.
He is. He really is.
So I know it comes on like a strong statement, but I'm like, yeah, I'm more a move forward type of dude.
He is. It's annoying.
Really?
Yeah, it's really annoying.
I actually should reflect more, especially before I hit send on emails.
Oh, so you just write and
Oh my
go.
God. No, Mike uses it to get out of arguments a lot, though. I don't deal in the past.
Oh, really?
I move forward. Like, yeah, but
It's all behind me now.
this is all behind me now. Sorry.
But you don't like to normally reflect because much of what your guys' career is just trying different things and being past it. But I ask because when you go through the process of making a book like this, not final cover art, what's that experience been like? Reliving all of these things.
You know, we laughed, we cried, we enjoyed watching The King in His Red. That's Yul Brynner, of course, who I refer to.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think actually that, you know what kind of made it all okay was it was nice reflecting on the past only because not only because but it was nice reflecting on the past because it actually was a way for us to kind of also sort of be in this current moment of being in the band. You know, even though Yauk's not here and we can't imagine having Beastie Boys without Yauk alive, it's like we got to sort of have that. And then also, neither, like when it comes to writing, Adam was probably a little better than me in the book writing, but...
Not if you ask Pat Kiernan.
Oh yeah, he did like my story over yours, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, there's other, I'll get into it.
Yeah. Well, maybe, I think he just didn't like your vocabulary.
Cuss words.
Yeah.
I'll get into it.
Just a
He's
semantics,
Canadian.
just a semantics issue. Really.
He's Canadian.
But
Sorry.
neither of us know what we're doing. We're not writers.
Right.
We've written lots of songs, but we're not writers. So that kind of like, to me, that part I like. I like doing things that I think we both do. It's like always about trying to do something that we haven't done before and don't really feel comfortable.
Was it difficult?
Or totally comfortable doing. Yeah, at times it was really difficult because when you make a record, it's like you're working on the song and all of a sudden you have this beat and then like you'd be like, oh, Adam, you just play it really loud for your friends and you're like, oh, like you get excited. There's nothing to get excited about in terms of writing a book until it's actually a book.
Right. And you can share it with people and they can read the source. Was that your experience as well?
Not so much, but...
Well, you don't look for gratification from
It's
people.
not about that. It's not about me, Mike.
You stand strong.
It's not about me.
What's it about?
It's about the children.
I thought that was Wu-Tang's thing. That was also
They cornered the market on the children.
I thought it was Wu-Tang was for the children.
It must have been easier than actually trying to sing.
You mean like sing because I'm not really a singer?
Yeah. Think about that.
but the singing,
about that.
They got auto-tune for that now.
Okay. I really liked it. I mean, it took a while, but it was really fun.
Was it also was it a challenge for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird.
Yeah.
The challenge is just the writing part was not the challenge so much, but like being able to like share it and have someone else read it. That's weird when you've never done it before.
And remember it. I mean, that's the thing. A lot of these things are a long time ago, and you've lived a lot since then. Did you keep journals? Did you have mementos that triggered memories?
Well, as we've learned recently, like the truth doesn't really matter, and facts don't really matter, right? So you just sort of write stuff and just say it, and it is what it is.
What we don't
the
remember,
truth is not the truth.
What we don't remember is
We've
just
learned.
as good as what we do remember.
Right. So aside from the box, well, how much of this is true then in this book? If you were to give me a percentage.
I mean, the truth is, what do we do, Mike?
What's truth? I don't speak of such things.
Mike doesn't want to deal with the past, so
right.
could you just
Yeah.
not ask him
Exactly.
anything about that happened before this hour?
So
That
Lamborghini or
book-
Ferrari, we don't ask that because you disagree on that in the book.
That book is done. So I'm not here to talk about that. All right? Why have
Mike
we
has
do that?
a bunch of new projects coming up,
Right,
which he'd
okay.
love to talk about,
Right.
or not.
Yeah, poetry.
Do you like to talk about the future?
Like my poetry slam series. for instance.
Do you want to talk about a slam right now, Mike? That's what you want to get in. Because
there's a band right,
Would you give
right
us
behind us.
The question was something about remembering stories and stuff.
Yeah.
We just made lists of things that might be funny to talk about or write about rather, and we're like, oh, you should write that one, or I'll write this one, and sort of we just sat and had a glass of water.
Actually, there was a time we talked about like having wine and then trying to come up with a title for the book. We had this whole plan, but then we never even did that. But in terms of what was in the book,
it's in the past.
That's in the past, so I can't. But in terms of what's in the book, yeah, it was just kind of that part came together fairly easy. It was like, okay, what about this time? What about this time? What about this time? But then you had to write the fucking thing.
Right.
The details, right.
Right. It's interesting, reading the book and growing up listening to you guys for as long as I have, from the beginning, is just getting windows back into that world. It's, I didn't realize it was like that, or I didn't realize it was like that. How much of that time was painful to remember? Was any of that painful to remember? Challenging to remember?
Challenging.
Yeah, I wasn't I don't really painful. I mean, of course, look, we miss Yauk, and then there's that, but it's not. It's weird. It's not. And there's things like you look back at it and you're like, oh, we were like we were teenage and post-teenage boys for a lot of that. So there's a lot of it where it's like, could have handled that a little better. There's
it's more
so
cringy
many
than
of those
painful,
moments. Right, cringy is a good.
It's astonishing how much freedom you guys had as teenagers. In Manhattan, at a time way before Manhattan was even remotely gentrified. Like, you were rolling through Manhattan as teenagers, and I mean, the contribution that must have had to your musical journey was huge, I imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's like I'm happy to hear you say that, because I think that's a lot of what we tried to convey in the book, is like that's like this huge percentage of what the band was and is, and who we are as people, and what we made only could have come from that environment in so many ways. Us being teenagers, having that freedom, and being in this city where there was so much, all this stuff was happening, creative stuff at the same time. And it just happened that it definitely was a lot less gentrified or safe place than it is now.
I mean, that mix of that transition from the hardcore stuff and the punk stuff to the hip hop stuff was amazing. Especially the story about going to see, was it the Black Flag show you went to go see when all the DC guys came up, and seeing a whole different set of hardcore kids and how eye-opening that would have been. I interviewed Slash once, and he said the reason why the 80s were what they were is because the artists in the 80s were basically raised in the 70s, and that the 70s had an enormous impact on parenting and freedom. Do you agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm. No, yeah. I'd have to agree with Saul.
Saul Hudson?
Yeah.
The only time?
He grew up in a different place, but it's true, actually. Like, I think our
where did
parents,
he grow up?
He's at LA, I would think. I think he'd be a LA.
He did.
Yeah, didn't he go to Hollywood High with
With Flea, I think.
Oh.
Yeah, they're the same.
Fairfax.
Yeah.
No, Flea went to Fairfax.
At any rate, in the
Sorry.
book, the writer Luc Sante writes a nice kind of long piece in there about New York back in the late 70s and early 80s. And he definitely describes the scene of kind of how it was, where like, we used to go hang out at this record store, Rat Cage, that was right over there.
Yeah, right around the corner
Right
from
over
here
there.
on 9th Street.
And, just getting from here to there in New York, you're just exposed to, we were going for punk rock, but on the way, you'd hear all this different types of music, you'd see all different types of art, you just were exposed to so much in New York. Maybe now still, I don't know, but definitely in our era.
What's great about the way it was written, too, is how all the sound was public, because people weren't really wearing headphones at the time, because
Right.
Walkmans were still new, is that you would come out of the subways and you were hearing it in cars, or somebody had a boombox, and you're constantly, you're constantly being influenced by outside music.
Yeah.
Did that play a role in the transition from you going from punk rock to more hip-hop? I guess hip-hop came a little bit later.
I don't know. Well, I guess it played a role just because that was how else were we going to hear hip hop? Like it's kind of like I remember, like it was the only way we first that I remember like hearing. It was one thing to hear, like Sugar Hill Gang. That could get played on what was commercial R&B radio at the time in New York, like WKTU, WBLS, whatever. But like I remember, like the first time hearing like a Harlem World, like a Harlem World battle was like somebody was playing it on a box walking down the street. You know what I mean? Or like Zulu Beat Show was this show on BAU uptown, and you just hear because somebody would be playing the cassette walking down the block. So that's that thing. Yeah, I don't know how we could have like gone.
Were you stopping people and asking them what it was?
You don't stop people and ask
Yeah,
what they're
you're not
listening
gonna
to.
Never
stop
know,
like.
but how else are you gonna learn what it was? How'd you know what it was? Here, let's get your coffee in, by the way. Like you would say, hey, what is that?
When you're like a little kid, you're like
I don't know.
12 and there's like a
I would never suppose
18-year-old.
I don't know what kind of kid you were. I don't know. Maybe you did.
No.
You guys were pretty
But,
free.
Listen, we had the freedom, but part of having that freedom is you got to know.
You
What
gotta
not to
be
say
cool,
so.
man.
Yeah.
You gotta know everything. You can't ask.
You can't ask anything. When did you learn to start asking? Have you ever started asking? Shazam doesn't count.
No.
I think actually on
Recently.
going
Very
on
recently.
Yeah, but I feel like actually going on tour was good for that because then you'd be in some town. There's something about you're in a town, you don't know anybody, you don't know where anything is, so it feels fine to ask. And you can be in some record shop and be like, oh hey, what's this? Like it, when you're at home.
There's a little bit about that in the book.
Yeah,
There's a lot about that in the book. There's a
very
lot about
nice
that in the
stories
book.
about
Yeah.
The thing for us watching your career was the growth of the Beastie Boys, the growth of Beastie Boys, and how
This is a really delightful cup of coffee.
Is it?
Definitely just interrupted him while he was talking.
I did, and I apologize. Well, I don't really apologize because, I just wanted whoever was responsible for the coffee.
Thank you
just
for the
good.
coffee. There you go. You got to get the
Thank
you. We live in a culture now.
It has like a hint of olive or somehow. I don't know how.
Olive sounds unpleasant. Like, I don't want olive in my
an
coffee.
olive coffee.
Do you think Greek coffee
I've never had,
Looking to you.
has
I've never had
olives?
olive in my coffee.
No.
I've never. I had grass soup growing up, but never olive in my coffee.
Grass soup?
Yeah, soup that was made of grass, and the grass was on top of the soup, and you would eat the grass, and it was really bitter and horrible. But I've come to appreciate it.
Wait, that cannot be true.
That is true.
You can
Ate-
tell us anything right now.
I know,
We're
I
gonna
know,
believe
I
it.
know, I know, but I wouldn't want to lie about culture.
Now, what's the
We played in
what are the- what's the
Athens one
roots?
time, and it's in the book.
Yeah, but I didn't remember that
Our
story.
one gig in Athens.
How did that go?
We've never been
Not
there
well.
before or since. It
Not
was
well.
fucking crazy. You should check out the book.
I've got the book.
Yeah, it's towards the back.
It's towards the back. No, I read parts of the back too. I particularly like the Q-tip basketball story.
See? It's pulling out. Wow.
Pointing at me now.
Guess
There's
everybody
a lot of
loves- everybody
finger-
loves Mike's
There's a lot of
writing.
finger pointing going on in this interview. I don't,
This is all going to come together. The growth, the idea that you guys could put out a record and then go from boys to becoming adults, becoming men. The idea that you're able to grow and learn. That's an amazing part of Beastie Boys' story. At least from the outside. Did it feel like it on the inside?
Yeah, Motown Philly back again. Little East
Nada.
Coast swing. Sorry, boys.
I don't know. You don't know what happens until you're there, right? Did that make any sense? I don't know.
When did you start listening to the lyrics on License to Ill and thinking,
Probably the day, like a week before the License to Ill tour ended.
really?
Yeah.
Wow, we gotta just not do this anymore. This is just embarrassing.
That sounds about right. Sadly, I agree with you.
What was
Right
happening?
now.
Was it, what part of it?
Well, it's
felt-
in the book.
Carry on. But the audience hasn't read the book yet. That's
Well,
what we're
they should
telling you.
go-
Well, they're going to get this.
Get the book.
Yeah,
On
we give
page
the whole thing away, then
170.
how are they going to be enticed?
No, it just got crazy.
but-
We
yeah.
basically, like, a lot of that License to Ill record was like us trying to be like a stereotype. Oh, this would be funny. We should do like frat guy stuff or like, like a joke on, I don't know what to get into now, but like a joke on a frat lifestyle. And then the more you do that and make fun of it, the more you become the thing that you're making fun of.
Right. And it was always to make fun of it?
Well, no. It's called Become What You Hate,
Yeah.
and is the story in the book on sale.
There's
October
also
30th.
a part in the book where Kate talks about how she said you guys were hanging out with Rick Rubin and took on Rick Rubin's personality.
Right, and so this is what happened, and then
What happened was.
well, what happened was, and so we made these songs, and then we're on tour, on the License to Ill tour, and it's getting pretty crazy. Things are getting, and then people are looking to us to be this thing that we've sold them, that we are this thing, and then we're like, wait, we're not actually this thing. Like, this is like it was just funny. I didn't realize that everyone was wanting us to be this thing, and so we wanted to not be the thing anymore. And then I'm not going to blame people, but like our manager at the time was like, just go do that thing. Just be that thing. Mm-hmm. People want you to be that thing, so be that thing that you don't want to be. It's fine. And so we were like, we don't want to do that anymore.
It was also the very beginning of the genre getting noticed by people. So in a sense, there wasn't really anything to emulate. There wasn't really a path you could follow. Run DMC had done what Run DMC did, but you guys had a completely different story. Did you feel like you knew what you were doing?
Oh no.
Do we feel like we were doing because we had Run DMC's blueprint? You mean?
No.
Or
What I mean
because-
is like you guys were young. Nobody had done what you had done before, and nobody was really doing it in the genre at all. Like no rap record had done what License to Ill was about to do. And I can imagine that when you were recording it, was there any part of your brain that said, "Shit, this is going to pop off. We're going to be big."
Definitely.
I don't know, 'cause we weren't. So I mean, for us, it was more like we were just psyched that we were actually getting to go to a studio and make what we got to make, and then it was kind of crazy then in working to give credit with Rick Rubin, like he would mix stuff and all of a sudden it would sound like a record that might get played somewhere.
Right.
We're up to us just making something, it wouldn't have had that degree of polish or like pop, whatever. But so that it was kind of like, whoa, that's crazy. Like this really sounds like a real record now. But we never expect it just wasn't on our agenda, like to have that happen. So the fact that it happened and that it can continue to happen on different levels is just like a nice, or even that today it kind of continues to happen with like songs getting used and people being into our music. It's all kind of like, oh, you're into that? Like,
I mean, the joke is that we were like wanted to be like the rap version of Smoke on the Water. That song. Who does that song?
Deep Purple.
Deep Purple.
Yeah. That sort of like that. That doesn't make sense.
Like
but,
the ubiquitous guitar riff that
or
everybody
whatever.
plays,
Like we were like the joke. One of the jokes was that like we're the biggest band in the world, and then
Right.
all of a sudden like a lot of people started buying our record and stuff, and then I've lost my train of thought.
This idea that there was no...
Well, I think it's kind of like we had this joke for years, even like after we got over the joke of what we kind of became at different points. Like, but it still played out to the very end where we would look at each other and be like, well, we're the band. We can do whatever we want. But there's like actually a beautiful freedom in that. Like I know that sounds very privileged or whatever, and I guess it is, but it's like that's like what allowed us to do everything that we could do and make everything that we make is this thing of just feeling like, all right, we can do we're the band. We can do what we want.
Well, and all bands should feel that way, that they should make what they want to make.
And
they're the band.
And the three of you, I like the story, which is in the book, about how you do stuff and then Adam would come back in MC and he would just change shit on you. And
Well, yeah.
it said that you guys were pissed about it, often frustrated by it. Did you ever take the stuff that he had added and said, no, we're not doing that, and pull it out?
I mean, it didn't happen that often, but there was just one instance that I wrote about. Mm-hmm. But he just he just did stuff. He didn't look back. He didn't deal, in
He doesn't deal with the past.
He doesn't deal with the past.
You're the caretaker of the past, then I assume.
Yeah, the caretaker, the note taker, stenographer, the archivist.
Did hindsight give
Archivist. Ooh, look at you now.
Okay.
Fancy, huh?
I mean, officially an archivist now. What did hindsight teach you about your band and the time that you all spent together making this?
We had a lot of fun. We got real lucky. Didn't have to have jobs. It was pretty cool.
We had jobs for a small window of time up until like
I don't like
up until we got like British Airways money.
Yeah, but like working at the ice cream store, it's not like
Yeah.
you don't have to like.
There was no
have a job as
question
grown-ups.
of like grown-up career.
Do you believe in destiny or anything, or fate or anything like that?
These are big questions.
Well, I'm curious.
Well, I don't necessarily know that I do and I don't. I mean, our band, I think, our music is weird to me. Like, if I didn't know, if I wasn't in the band, and if I was listening to the band, I'd be like, oh, they're cool. Like, they got some songs, I guess. But like, I would not think that we would be a big band and like this many people would have bought our records. Like, kind of weird.
Because of what you were making?
Yeah, it's just,
because of
it's
what we
cool.
were making and what we were,
How many songs you got, Mike?
inspired and influenced by, number one, because that's what our aspiration was. And the other is like, we're not great at making, we're no TLC. We're not great at making pop.
You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of annoying if you listen to it.
We're not great at making pop songs, but somehow when we did, it worked with a lot of people on different levels.
But why do you think that is?
I don't know. I don't
That's
think.
what I'm saying.
I don't
That's
even
why
think
it's
that's
weird.
for us though to think. Like, I'd rather just be like
Leave
with
it to-
Adam, just
yeah.
be like, you know, it's weird, but it's a good weird. You know
It's
what I
a
mean?
thing
Like,
that
I
makes you go,
appreciate it. It is.
Right, Mike?
Now that's looking
Yeah.
at the past. You know, and the reason I ask about the destiny is because you had written about in the book and you mentioned the British Airways thing. It is so random that you would have heard that in that instance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And had you not got that money, had you not got the 808, had you not, would this stuff have happened anyway?
Oh, you're talking about like butterfly effect?
Yeah, like
Okay.
would Beastie Boys would inertia have come from somewhere else?
I mean, Dave Parsons from the Rat Cage asked the first
Right.
show that they played before I was in the band, they played one time, and Dave from the Rat Cage was like, we should make a record.
Make a record,
Right.
yeah.
So how does that happen?
Right. Or then we go to make when Cookie Puss came out, it's like we went to record something totally else. We had something completely different in mind and recorded a bunch of songs, and they all sucked. We didn't like any of them. They weren't good. And
Yeah, if those would have put on if that was our record.
yeah, that would have
then
been
we
the end.
definitely
That would have
wouldn't
been
be here.
basically the end of the story. Then it would have been like, okay, you go to school and figure out what you're going to be in life or whatever. But
Right.
we did this other thing.
Oh my God.
That's your revolutionary
Right.
road shit. You don't want
But
to
I'm
think
just
about
saying
that.
Nothing against school. I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
I'm just very happy.
Yeah, we were
that
lucky. We
got
dodged
lucky.
that one.
Right.
But my point is, yeah, there are multiple, forks or decisions, or just not even decisions. They're just things that happen that are like that. So I guess I like our relationship with those is more like somehow we're lucky and fortunate enough that we're very grateful for it that we got to keep kind of making what we want to make and enjoying doing that with people that we really love making stuff with. And so I actually don't want to understand.
Fair enough.
Like, I don't
Yeah.
want to understand why that happened or why other people or what other people think about it so much. It's just, I'm just grateful that we got to do it.
And I wonder if it's because you guys you were young when this happened, that you weren't that much older than I would have been when I got the cassette, right? And the impact it had on our schools and the division it caused in school, you know, because I was a
what was
punk
that
rock
about?
kid, a punk rock hardcore kid. I loved that stuff. And then I lived in a neighborhood that was predominantly black, and my friends wanted me to listen to, you know, early rap, and I didn't feel it because it was just a little too. It was too party for me. It didn't feel dangerous to me at all. And then they played me yours cassette, and I heard it was actually vinyl, and I heard the guitars and I heard the sounds and the yelling, and I was like, oh, I couldn't get my head around this. I didn't know who you guys were. I didn't know. I mean, I was like 12 or 13, and suddenly wearing a Beastie Boys shirt in school, or suddenly listening to Beastie Boys on a Walkman, like teachers would be like, what are you doing? And I hadn't experienced that at that point. And it was really interesting to watch how the fuck rap, I love rap, that whole thing that happened. And you guys would have been teenagers. That would have been a lot of shit to be put at your doorstep. Were you aware of what was happening culturally
With rap?
with you? Well, yes, rap, but of course, but you guys became representatives in a big way because you toured with Madonna, you had a big thing.
No, I didn't. I guess I didn't know that there was like a thing about like, oh, you listen to Beastie Boys. I didn't know that was a thing.
Right. I mean, exactly. That's not our world. I mean, I guess what our experience or our world was like, wow, all of a sudden we get to go to Detroit to play. We actually get to fly on an airplane to go somewhere to play a show. Like that seemed really fucking crazy. Like, wow, we're gonna fly on an airplane like a real band and go play a show. So that's our experience. But then we didn't. You know what I mean? So we couldn't see what was happening. I guess like that.
Yeah, or how that happened. You know, because of all these kids that were suddenly into it. Is it weird for you then to hear how everybody talks about Paul's Boutique after the fact? Like Paul's Boutique has become this record that everybody cites as this great hip hop record, but even in the book, you talked about how bummed you were with the response and your Tower Records visit, and you know I interviewed the guys from Scarface, and they say this fucking movie bombed when it came out. Everybody ripped us, and then they started seeing posters in hip hop artist walls when MTV Cribs was on, and that's when Scarface took on its life of its own.
Right.
When did you feel, or have you felt vindicated about Paul's Boutique?
I don't know. It's funny, but that's like another
we
thing.
put out like a whole bunch of records. That was just one record.
Right, but that's another one where it's funny because it's like, I mean, at the time, honestly, we were crushed. You're like, we felt like we put all this work into it. Like now, maybe it's like we've done enough stuff where it'd be like, whatever. I guess that
We
one.
weren't really crushed though, Mike. I saw you every single day. You weren't really crushed.
We weren't having that bad at all.
Saying crushed is like
No, but we
it's
were
like-
kind of like.
we were having a lot of fun, Mike.
No, we were, but I just remember us like being around and then being like, damn, we put like so much work into this, and like now nothing. Now it's like, you know.
Yeah. Is that really? Because it
So-
made the book, right? This.
It was weird. It's like, you know, we worked really hard on it, and we also, I mean, the coming off the heels of Fight for Your Right to Party and all of that, we were like the biggest band in the world.
Yeah.
We thought like, oh, this record is going to be huge, and we're going to be like selling out the Garden and all this stuff. And then we played at like 2 or 3 discos, and nobody showed up, and it fucking sucked.
Yeah.
And it was weird, but like we were still having fun. We were like in LA, we were like going to clubs.
You had a bit of money. You knew you were going to make another record.
Well, actually,
Yeah.
the best thing was that we thought we had money, and then it turned out we didn't have any money because
You know what's
Russell
weird
Simmons
is when
didn't pay us.
we didn't get paid, and then when like the record label, you know, when they fly you somewhere, then like you have to pay them back for that flight,
Right.
Which is we didn't realize until later. But we had playing in my apartment, playing music and hanging out.
We got to eat infinitely more breakfasts later in the day.
Yeah.
Just hanging out and then just go buy records and listen to records that, you know, and just sit around.
We were having a great time.
Yeah, no, so we, and
Think about that
and
apartment
I would
on
say
Stanley.
like, in terms of like, you
That
were
was
talking,
fun.
no, but in terms of you were talking about like, well, what if this had, like if Paul's Boutique hadn't had the commercial reception that it did,
Right.
AKA bricked.
Right, because that's the word in the book. Bricked. Right?
It
Right.
bricked. Commercially, it bricked, right?
Right.
But if it hadn't commercially bricked, that gave us this freedom to do so many other things. It gave us the freedom to just like sit around and listen to records and get inspired and really like just and make what we want to make. And also, because then we write about it in the book, that's that thing of like everybody who worked with us at the record label had been like fired or gone on to something else or whatever. So nobody wanted to be associated with us or what we do. So that's what's kind of funny when you ask about Paul's Boutique. It's like, okay, everybody, like, there are all these people who's like, oh, that's my favorite Beastie Boys album. It's like, well, why don't you buy it when it came out then?
Right.
But yeah, it's true. Nobody at the record label was like, hey, we really need to make this deadline. They were like, just take as much time as you need.
Right.
Don't ask me about it. Ask somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. And it's in that because that was like being teenagers in New York all over again. Because then we had this total freedom because nothing was expected of us. Like Paul's Boutique had bricked, hadn't sold a gazillion copies, so it was like it'll be a miracle if I think from their perspective, it would be a miracle if we ever turned in another record. They probably didn't even honestly expect us to turn in
What you did.
another album.
Have you guys ever been, you know, some artists feel a bit of trepidation before they put out the next project. They wonder if they can reach an audience again. They wonder if they had their window. Have you guys ever felt that in your career?
I don't know. It's funny. Like I don't realize like I didn't feel like it was until we made a bunch of records that we even started to think about like, oh well, this single maybe people will like it.
Because the way
maybe they won't. I don't know.
Never worried about it? Never thought about it?
Well, I mean, you think about it in terms of like when you book tours.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, are all these people going to show up for our tour? Or are these people going to show? You know, and you just sort of gauge it by that. But we've never been like, we got to make this stuff because we want to reach this type bigger audience or whatever. I mean, we had a record contract for X amount of records, so we knew we were going to put another one out. Right. And so, we just got really lucky. I don't know what else to tell you.
No, I appreciate the honesty, but I'm just wondering if that's retrospect. If at the time...
We were never like, we got to do this type of thing because this demographic is going to hit the radio and we got to worry because radio's not playing this type of stuff right now. They're playing that. We never were like, like radio. I don't listen to the radio. It's not like radio was ever a concern.
You're never going to kiss the monkey on the nose, as it says in the book.
Right. Well, we tried not to, but right. You know, and it was nice. Like, look, when we made Hello Nasty, all of a sudden, like, Intergalactic is playing in all these places, and the video is being played, and whatever. Like, it's like it was. We got to enjoy that, and then and in a weird way, it was nice to then have that because then we got to actually really enjoy it. It's not like when it happens kind of the first time around, you don't know how to handle anything, and you literally don't know what's happening too. So it was actually that felt really good to be able to kind of keep cycling through to like different records that did connect with people, but it wasn't like, oh, we gotta make. I don't know, somehow it was. I think very fortunately we were free of like feeling like this one's got to be bigger than the last one. This one's got to be bigger than the last one.
You know, in the book you talk about how you wanted to get Q-Tip on a track, but you felt a hesitation from him, and I think the intonation in there was that maybe it's because he didn't want to be associated on record, based on the previous reaction. How did that make you feel? Were you conscious of that at the time?
Yeah, I felt a little, but I mean, I think we understood it. You know, it's kind of like we were the white dudes that had Fight Fair at the party.
Right.
So is that actually really gonna be cool for him as like one of the people most associated with like Native Tongues posse to jump on a record with these three dudes?
Right. And it was a bit weird. You
But then when it
he was
happened,
at our studio all the time,
yeah,
so he kind of had to.
Right, he's at our studio. Well, it's at our studio, so the relationship exists. It was a real relationship, and so.
What we had was real with Q-Tip, Mike.
Yeah, we had real.
We still do.
You still do it with Q-Tip?
Yeah.
But anyway, but that was real. But I also understand because our relationship is real. I understand his hesitation in terms of like that coming out with, because that's more about a record coming out with these three dudes. It wasn't about our friendship and being like these people that all love to listen to the same records and do the same things.
Right. So when Check Your Head's about to come out, what do you think? Do you remember that time? What are you thinking? What are you feeling?
It's feeling good.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think.
Oh no! You know, we did because we were just talking about this. Whenever I say we were just, it was probably like 4 years ago. After Paul's Boutique, right? So we had played those 2 shows or 5 shows at the discos, and then we hadn't played a show in years. And we had Check Your Head's gonna come out, and we played in London to before Check Your Head comes out. And so I didn't know if we were gonna be at a disco for 40 people or like at what. And it was a theater for like a couple hundred people, however many, and it was packed and everybody was psyched. It wasn't like a huge place, but everybody's packed and everybody was psyched. Everybody, every last person, security.
That part I don't question. But now you're gonna want to slam me on the couch when I say this. I think the show you're talking about was maybe. I just want you to think back.
I'm just getting so boiling. It's starting to boil right now.
That might have happened at a venue called The Building here in New York.
I'm talking about London.
Street.
I know that was really good.
Nobody gave a fuck about us in London. When did they?
Dude, this is the show that I was talking about before. Allegedly, Blur was there and they got into like some crazy thing and they all got thrown out because they were telling me all about it. And this was
Oh,
before
now the dudes in Blur, you're gonna listen to them over me.
Hold on, I'm gonna call Blur right now on my phone.
Which
Okay.
Blur, Damon?
All of them.
They have one bad phone.
But it was like we did promo and we did some show there before Check Your Head came out. I'm telling you.
You might be right. You might be right.
So,
All right.
did you find out after from Blur that it was an amazing show, or could you tell then?
Yeah, the Blur is like a side.
Yeah,
It's such a
okay.
footnote.
Yes.
Just I wanted to just say that
That's a-
celebrities come to our shows all the time.
Apparently.
That's all. No, it's like a really fun show, and like everybody was into it, and I was like, oh shit, we doing our
No,
thing.
but I think also that thing that what I was
And-
talking about.
Sorry to interrupt. Excuse me to finish
No,
my
no,
thought.
Adam, please. Please.
Fight for Right to Party and all of that stuff like got really big, which is fantastic and all of that.
Right.
And we were playing these big shows, but we felt definitely disconnected from like what that was. Those people. And I, thank you for buying the tickets and all of that for our concerts, but it was weird. It wasn't like those, like this concert in London really felt like our people
Right.
were there, as
Yeah,
did
I agree with that.
did the Loft.
Yeah, at the Loft here in
Yes.
New York, it was the same thing, and a bunch of other shows because it was like finally like the people that were there, and they were not only into just what we were doing, but we started playing instruments again. So we had like some hardcore in the show, and like the people that were there were not only open to that, they were into that, and they were also into songs from License Sale and Paul's Boutique and Check Your Head, and it's like they could kind of go with all of that. So then all of a sudden that was like a totally different feeling, because then it was like we weren't playing a role, we were just going out there doing what we wanted to do, and the fact that people were showing up for that was a very gratifying experience. Although that being said, we had those, but like we toured for like a year and a half, and a lot of that was like spending time in Europe where it's like every dressing room is freezing and the heat doesn't work, and there's maybe 60 people in the club,
Well, come on, Mike. 70 to 90. Well, I got sidetracked because the place here was the building. The place in Berlin is the Loft.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
That was like
correct.
a fire hazard. That place was
Yeah, that club went on, and that was not 80 people. That was like
packed. That was like
That was overpacked.
140.
yeah, and the building here overpacked.
Yeah, good shows though.
So when did it
Well, we'd have to ask Bill Ramey about that.
Not
Been
the
a
one in
long-
Berlin. Not the one in
Oh,
Berlin.
no.
All right.
So when did
I didn't mean like that.
No. We don't want to tell poop stories right now.
you can tell?
No, poop stories. I wouldn't mind. We talked a lot in this interview, and we haven't talked about poop once.
70 to 90.
Bill Ramey pooped in the dressing room. Not in the room, anyway.
Like in the middle of the room, or
No,
was it
no,
in the
no.
bathroom?
But there was like only
no
one
reason to-
little teeny bathroom that was connected to the dressing room. It was awful.
That's how the metal department here. That makes sense. When did the 70 to 90 become big? I went to that RFK Stadium Tibetan Freedom concert show. We drove down from Toronto, and that's about as big as anything I've ever seen.
Right,
in
but
terms of
right,
the
but that's
crowd.
the thing. But it was an arc.
Yeah, because
It was
check
a
your head
trajectory.
license.
That's what I'm saying.
check your
Like,
ill
we had to
communication.
work up
Yes.
from like Check Your Head and going out and playing, and then having to like build up, and then ill communication, more people showing up, and then and then all of a sudden we're selling out arenas, and we're
because
in that place.
the haven't done this in 5 years. The Bill Ramey story was out in the parking lot of Klecko's.
We
We played
it was
a football. Someone who was on the New York Jets in like the 80s or 70s had
oh
a
my god,
bar.
that place. That's right.
And it was a disco, and there was probably 100 people, maybe.
Maybe.
And we kept falling off the stage.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway,
That happened. We said, why wasn't that in the book?
it's not that much of a story.
Yeah, that's right. That's kind of like funny to us.
But
Okay,
it's
we're
a nice
back.
memory.
We're
That's a
back.
nice memory.
Mike just dealt in the past.
Yeah, see
But
that?
this is progress, and I feel
Yeah.
like we're getting somewhere. with
You
it.
know, like guys, I'm being honest, it felt good that way. When
It did, it felt
said
nice. It felt
Klecko's,
fun.
I sort of relaxed.
Yeah.
Something about
Really?
the name, maybe? I just remember, I think I realized, I just remember that, like, it couldn't get any shittier than that gig. Like, the place sucked. Hardly anybody was there to see us. People that were there, I don't think gave a shit about us. Like,
No.
Did that ever discourage you?
No, not at all.
No?
No. We played a lot of shows where it was just like it was just like a disco already happening. and we just showed up and played, and then
Well, that
nobody.
was the best line for so long. Like, oh, we got to go because they're going to turn this place into a disco.
That's how we would end shows a lot.
Yeah.
Hey, you guys, we got to get out of here because management, we got to get. They're going to turn this into a
But
disco.
that did come out of real life. There was that time, like on Check Your Head, where we were like playing these venues that were like, the band could play there like 8 to 10:30, and then it would turn into a disco.
Gotta go.
Yeah, and that's
So
still
you literally
happening
had to. We
but
literally had to go.
I think another part of this too that I think is really interesting about your story is that, and it doesn't exist as much today, was just the proliferation of all ages clubs. Like now most bands play in these over 21s or in Canada over 19 or 18, but you could go into all these shows and get a musical education with other teenagers.
Well, when we were kids, we used to go to shows that were all that weren't all ages. It was like a bar, like we would go to CBGB's or Max's, Kansas City, all of that stuff. Kids were not allowed in, but like they would just let us in because it was
it's just because that's what New York was at that time. You could go in. There was no. I mean, if you'd get carded at some place that was like fancy, but no club gave a shit. You know what I mean? You
no
literally,
punk places would care.
No, you just walked in.
Or if you did get carded, that would be like 1 out of 20 times going out. So it was really right. So we had access to all this music as if it was all ages, even though it wasn't. And then I think that was something that I remember, like on Check Your Head time when we were doing shows. That was like a very important thing to us. I think maybe coming from hardcore is like to keep those shows all access, which I guess that maybe that's part of the thing of like all those places turning into discos after we would play, because then they'd probably make their money on the
But for
booze
Mike,
afterwards.
for Mike to do a show that's like all ages, it's tough because Mike's used to a
I
more
understand. Yeah,
I'm used to a sexier vibe, a lot of like
sexier vibe is exactly how I was thinking it, but I couldn't say it.
Yeah. When you think about it, like kind of the sleazy disco era, that's when you think of me.
How different would your career have been had you done that MC Hammer disc track that your Leather Jaggedy guy or whoever wanted you to make? That's a funny part of the story because he's like, no, we'll just call Hammer and tell him it's a joke.
Right.
And I was trying to figure, is that a bullshit story or is that a real story?
That was a definite real story. Yeah.
That's I think the best. That's the thing about being a band. Like the things that seem like the craziest stuff that like we had to have made it up. Those are the most true things.
Right. I mean, that's nuts. Had you done that?
For those of you who are watching, our record label in the 80s wanted us to sell records, so they suggested that we make a track talking shit on MC Hammer.
Yeah.
Right.
Because he was huge at the time.
What's known as a diss record in the industry.
And we had never met Hammer and didn't know anything about him, had no problem with
Well,
Hammer.
you subsequently are quite tight with...
Oh my God, I met MC Hammer about 2
Would you
years
say
ago.
the Hammer? Like, how would you refer
I just say Hammer.
to him?
Hammer?
Okay.
Yeah. He was wonderful.
You met him and he was nice?
Wonderful.
Right.
Smelled good, right?
Well, I don't know about smelled good, but he had a huge fur coat, and we hugged, and I just stayed in his embrace for a while.
Where did you meet him?
It was
Was
so
it on the street,
comfortable.
random?
So it was like the side of your cheek pushed up against the fur?
Everything.
So you were enveloped in the fur. Okay.
I'm small, and he was just wonderful. He was so nice to me.
Yeah. That's nice,
very nice.
comforting. And did this remind, was this like a childhood feeling? Like how?
Yeah,
how
absolutely.
you feel?
Yeah.
That's a lovely feeling to have as an adult.
Yeah.
So, would you say Hammer's...
Can we
like,
stop talking about this?
Obviously, you never considered making that track, but at the time,
Oh yeah, no. That's a silly idea.
right.
We should do
silly
it
idea.
now.
Yeah.
No, but listen, man. You know that Eminem put out that Kamikaze record, and he used your old album cover essentially, and it's a whole record of diss tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's bringing back the diss
Anybody
track.
give you a heads up on that, or did you just see it like everybody else did on Apple or wherever?
No, yeah, we literally, we saw it like every... I mean,
Did
well,
he
I
say
guess the
stuff
only-
about us?
No.
Yeah, he likes us.
He
I
loves
think.
you guys. Yeah.
But-
yeah.
Oh,
Genie Christmas.
But it was a pretty big moment.
but no, but literally we heard about it like not. I mean, I guess the only difference is I got like maybe all of a sudden I get like 10 text messages, 20 text messages, and I'm like, why do I all of a sudden have 50 text messages? Like I better see like what's going on. Or is everybody's like forwarding me the album cover from like the Twitter feed or whatever.
Right.
So that's how we found out about
Is it nice
that.
to be remembered on that first record?
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't know him. I'm sure
Yeah.
that was nice. Sure.
I've met him.
I met him once in a bathroom
Yeah.
in Rome. It's not a big deal, but you know.
Oh yeah.
Like just random again? Was it the same kind of warm embrace as Hammer?
We didn't embrace,
No.
but
Eminem's not a warm embrace. Nothing you get,
Yeah, it is.
he's not really a warm. I don't think he's a warm embrace type. I don't know.
Have you ever cut a diss track?
about Mike.
Yes, that's happened.
But I just send him these MP3s of these songs. Like, yeah.
Yeah, check
It's all
these.
about,
He's like, Mike, check these 16 bars.
Yep.
Slayed you.
Do you think if you'd started today,
You're buried, son.
you'd be allowed to have the arc you did by the audience? Do you think the audience would go there? Fuck the audience. Would anybody let you go there? You know, this idea that now if you put out a tweet 15 years ago and you can lose your job today.
I don't know what happens today.
It's
I don't know. There's no way. I mean, look, I think that's one of the things that we're so grateful and consider ourselves so lucky. Like we actually were able to like pay rent and buy houses because we actually got to sell records when we were like doing all that stuff. Like I don't know what we'd do today because we'd be doing all that, but it's not like we'd be selling records. So.
Yeah, today. But I mean, just the idea that you could start off being these young guys who are just saying all kinds of shit, and then suddenly you're the same guys that drop some pretty incredible lyrics, some very feminist lyrics. If you go from the first album to the fourth album, it's a different band in terms of the lyrical content, which it should be because you're growing up. But artists don't get a lot of the freedom to grow anymore.
They don't?
No.
Well, I just think
You're
the
kinda-
time doesn't.
Why not?
But I think you have the freedom, and I
good
think
question.
I don't know. I don't.
If people aren't buying records, then what's the problem? Just make
Right.
whatever you
I
want to
actually
make.
don't, because I also don't agree with it. I think you have like a group like Brockhampton where they'll like talk about rapping and being gay or whatever, and they can make all these different types of records because there's like 14 dudes in the group, and that exists, and like there's a lot of
14
people.
is excessive.
People?
This is a lot.
yeah.
P-funk kind of stuff.
It is, but they have this kind of like a Wu-Tang.
No, I know, I
type
get it, but I'm
theory,
just saying, like,
but yeah, no, 14.
ordering lunch is a fucking nightmare.
Yeah,
No, you know what? Like this idea that you
yeah, 14's a lot.
in a band, 3 was enough. I'm assuming.
Yeah, but anyway, but
Even-
my point is that they're reaching a lot of people and saying different things and making different kinds of records. So I think that can totally exist. Now I don't know.
If it could have existed back then.
Well, no, I mean I think that's all just part of the evolution. Like, yeah, a group of 14 people, I don't know. But
I don't
whatever,
see
you
why
had
people
Wu-Tang.
can't make things and change and grow or whatever. The only thing I don't understand is how people can pay rent. I just don't know, like,
Right.
if people aren't buying records, I don't know how people are, can
Well, and that's just
be an
not,
artist full time. I don't know if you can.
Right, and that's not just music. That's everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody who's doing anything creative. It's like you just got to be on the hustle.
sponsorship,
You got to be on
yeah.
the hustle all the time. So I'm just grateful. Like we were spared a lot of the hustle, right? Because we could just kind of focus on
Yeah, and it was a
making
different
what we
time,
wanted to
for
make.
sure. When did you start to feel like you were growing as people, becoming more? I mean, the word everybody's now woke, but becoming more thoughtful, becoming more introspective. You said you were embarrassed near the end of the Licensed Ill tour, but you're still young. Like, when did you feel like you were starting to grow? Were people handing you books? Were people working on you?
I don't know. You pay attention more in life. You grow up. You become an adult. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's also a gradual.
Like everybody else, I would assume.
But I think that's a gradual thing. Your eyes don't all of a sudden, you don't go from this one place and then all of a sudden have your eyes open to everything.
Right.
It's kind of like you really, it's a direct thing where you really start to see like, oh wow. So what I'm saying on this record, this is impacting people. And like all of a sudden this joke where we were like, oh, like haha, like in the studio, maybe people don't see the joke sometimes, and then you still have to keep going on and making the joke because you want to laugh, but like it's like you just become aware of maybe that's kind of hurtful, like maybe we don't need to go there, and it's like you really start to see you start to get little glimpses of what the effect is.
Is it also like a bit of a leadership role where you think you can make a positive impact on people's lives?
Couldn't hurt to say some positive things.
Yeah. I mean, I think
in
we
the
want to
world.
say positive. I guess I'm still not comfortable with the idea of being like a leader just because that freaks me out. And both in terms of not so much me being a leader, but just in terms of just how I think of what my, I guess, just like whatever, just being a punk rock, hip hop, whatever kid, like my relationship with authority, like I'm not gonna, it's hard to think of like looking up to a leader, so I don't necessarily want to embrace that, but I feel like but then at the same time, it is sort of, it's kind of nice to see that, like what I think like a lot of times we're lucky that people come up to us and like, hey, it'll just be really short and sweet and be like, hey, thank you for the music.
Right.
And that means a lot.
That's your favorite kind of compliment? If you're going to get one?
Yeah, it's pretty nice. Genuine.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of a joke right now.
Yo, Mike D.
A lot of people say it. My favorite is when people like, I really like your stuff more than Mike's. I've always thought that.
That doesn't happen. Because they come up to you and they say, yo, Mike D. So, how does that
90% of the time, if I ever get recognized on the street, they say, yo, Mike D.
I want to believe that.
Which is true. Which is true, but I just want to point out, it's a statistically...
It sucks. I don't want to be him.
Yeah, and it's also, but it's a very flawed fact. And it is true, but it's very flawed because you should just say Adam, because 2/3 of the time you'd be right.
That's right.
Said Adam.
But if you said Mike half the time you'd be right, Adam half the time you'd be right.
No,
Well,
that's
now,
right. Yeah.
current day, yes.
Yeah.
True.
That's right.
All right, fitty.
That's still a little bit.
In that case, I'm Mike D all day.
At any point, do you sit back and go, this has been such a big part of my fucking identity my whole life, and now Beastie Boys aren't what the Beastie Boys were by your own, standards. You're like, we're not going to do this. What's that life like trying to figure out purpose or identity or any of that? Do you go through any of that?
Yeah, it's weird. It's definitely weird. I mean, it's definitely really crazy when Adam was sick and when Adam passed away for years. Just like, what are we doing? What am I supposed to do with myself? And it was weird. It's still weird. I don't really know. I just kind of like.
Right. Well, I think it's still weird, like in not necessarily a bad way, but it's like we're always going to be so defined by what we did together as a band,
right.
And that's okay. You know what I mean? That's like, and that's fine. And then I guess it's nice somehow, like for both of us. I feel like it took a while, and then you kind of like find this thing of like, okay, I love doing this, I love doing that, and life kind of goes on, and you have your creative outlets, and you have your things that keep you kind of like creatively satisfied.
Right. And what is yours? Like, what keeps you? I know movies is part of what you do.
I do a lot of things.
As a thespian, Adam?
Working on a project right now. I have to trying to make up something as I'm talking.
No, you don't have to make it up. No. Because you say weird, and I appreciate that. I wonder what the process is to try to figure it out. Is it just time, or are you doing other things to try to figure out what to do?
Mike, really? You're not texting Shelby, are you?
No.
Stay in here, They can't do this to us. You may try just a little harder to understand our position. It's got to be illegal or something. Every time I have a chance to. You're 18.
Would you tell the class what's happening?
Are you bringing a complaint against your son for illegal possession of a weapon? This kid needs a year in juvenile hall. That's the only thing that's going to straighten him out.
That was really good.
All right, sorry.
What's happening is Mike has become overcome with jealousy and envy right now, and it's hard for me to watch.
Because of your acting career? Yeah. Do you have, so surfing, you found surfing, right? Surfing's a thing for you. Have you found something that you like to do?
Surfing and obviously,
Mike's demise.
and obviously researching old YouTube clips of Adam is something I spend a lot of time doing, much to my own amusement.
It would be great if you actually dropped a diss record on Mike. That would be a pretty funny thing.
It's not bad. I have been writing a book for the past little while, so I don't know what Mike's been doing. I haven't done nothing. I don't have to do anything. I'm just having fun and doing nothing.
Did you cry at all or get
And
emotional?
you're a music supervisor sometimes.
No, I'm definitely not.
You
I
did it.
once. I'm
You've
working on
done
some
score,
film
music,
score.
film score. You've acted in a major motion picture,
Major
a
motion
biopic
picture.
about Roxanne Shante.
Yeah.
Right. So
Well, I was in one scene.
you've been busy.
Right.
Did I tell you that I was in one scene? It was at the premiere. Everybody that came on screen, the whole audience was like, yes! Everybody was so psyched to see everybody. Dead silent. Crickets when I came on.
That's because a lot of people don't understand it.
I was like,
no. I
nothing?
think you
Nobody?
read. I think you read the audience wrong. Because I think what it is.
Shocked. Yeah, everybody was,
Yeah.
whoa.
Well, no, it's just this is
Real
the thing.
talent.
Is there's times in your acting where you really are a chameleon. You know,
I know,
you
I know.
really inhabit the role, and you know, as what was it, the Jewish attorney, I believe.
Attorney Schwartz.
Yeah.
The Jewish wasn't the forefront of.
When you read the description and took the role, did
No.
it say Jewish attorney? No.
It said Attorney Schwartz. So
Okay, well, I took that. You know.
It was kind of there.
So I'm saying, like you embodied, you lived that
It's not
role,
about
and
me.
so people
It's
didn't
about the
see
picture.
you on that screen.
It's true.
So
They
you guys-
saw Schwartz.
Yeah, that's
They
true.
saw
That's
the
what they
attorney
didn't
at
know
work.
it was you, is what he's saying.
They actually didn't.
No, if they
Right.
did, it'd be a whole different reaction.
Because Stretch Armstrong was there and he was like, oh shit, that was you?
Yeah, see?
So now that's your Daniel Day-Lewis right there, or your Meryl Streep. Do you make songs?
Big
Meryl
names,
Streep,
but
I didn't think
big
of
names.
that.
Take it.
I didn't think of that as sort of like a comparison for you in the dialogue, but
Neither,
thank you.
but
I
yeah.
think that's really.
Listen, I'm a
yeah.
supporter of anybody's art if it's
Yeah.
good.
The male Meryl Streep, yeah.
All right.
Are you making songs? Do you have songs?
Well, that's.
I've done
Yeah.
some score
Yes.
stuff.
Well,
But I'm
but
just
hold
saying-
on. The whole thing about us songs. I mean, some people argue we only have
Wang
four
Chung,
songs.
one song.
One song. But
Yeah.
one's enough if it's that good. Well, but no, like,
I mean, how many songs do you think we got? Like 6?
that you love.
Well, no, that's a
That's
separate
that's a
discussion.
separate thing.
But songs. So
Are there Beastie Boys songs we haven't heard that could one day come out? And the other question is, do you have songs that you're writing on your own?
I don't know if there's any Beastie Boys songs you haven't heard, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of music you haven't heard.
Right. And would that come out someday?
Maybe. Depends.
yeah, could do. Could
we
do.
we when we were in LA from like 1990 to 95, 96, or even later actually, we played a lot of music every day,
Yeah.
especially at our studio, and we recorded almost everything. So we have a lot of stuff.
Right.
So some of that stuff could be interesting.
Sean Lennon said that when he came to do our show, he said that the closest thing to the Beatles he's ever seen were you guys. The Beastles, in fact, is I believe how he phrased it. Now, you did sign him. So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that was very nice of him.
very nice. One last thing on Adam. Do you have a memento or something that you hold on to, a memory, a thought? Do you ever watch old videos of you guys together? Do you have any of those moments?
I mean, there's not like, oh, I have this keepsake or anything like that. It's just more like things will come up or you know, a lot of times it's interesting. I think it's more about things that happen to me, like when I have a new opportunity, like something that I'm doing currently, or someone says, hey, would you be interested in doing this or that? And it's some like crazy thing that I've never done before. And then I sort of check. That's where I get to kind of like check in a way
Yeah.
and be like, like think about Adam.
Yeah.
I feel very lucky to have that.
That's how the book ends too. It's that really beautiful, beautiful thing. It was like, what would you up to?
Right.
Yeah, not to spoil it.
Oddly enough, I'm wearing his pants right now.
Are you really?
Yeah.
He just left him at the house.
And we just had all these pairs of Dickies around.
Yeah,
And we all wrote our names on
And it's
it.
been pointed out they're not particularly form-fitting for you.
Who pointed that out? You just
In
did just
the
now?
no, in the text message.
I don't understand what's going on with you and Shelby. Like, why are you hawking me? Like, what's that about?
It's true. We are kind of social media shaming you, which
Yeah,
is wrong.
what's that
You're
about?
telling them.
Now I feel
Yeah.
I feel bad.
Yeah.
You're right. So shame on
This
me.
is all me, Mike.
I appreciate your time, guys. Thank you. We'll take a couple photos. I love that. Thanks, man.
Thank you very much.
Really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.